Hello and welcome to the Seattle area condominium home pricing update. This is a real estate update I do every month, and today we're going to be talking about condominium sales in the greater Seattle area. My name is Realtor Emily Cressey. I'm with Keller Williams Greater Seattle, and I'm excited to talk with you about what is happening in the condo market. Now, here I'm sharing the MLS data. This is the Northwest MLS. It's published every 30 days, so we're at the beginning of February. This is showing us the end of January. That's as far forward as the data goes. And we have different lines here. So Seattle is the gray line, Bellevue is the green line, Renton is the red line, and Linwood is the purple line. And as you can see, year over year, we're looking at a significant price increase in the Seattle market as well as the Bellevue market, both showing an excess of 20% increase in sales values. Now, I think in order to get a more apples to apples comparison here, I'm going to take this down and we're going to just look at previously owned condos, because if we're putting in a lot of new construction, especially some of those ADUs and detached dwelling units, townhomes, things like that, that are not kind of the apartment style condos, I think we get a little bit different perspective than if we're building something brand new and calling it a condo. I think for the sake of this data, I just want to limit that. So now when we look at the year over year price appreciation, we can actually see that Seattle previously owned condos have lost 2% in value. And this could very well be due to an increase in the types of new construction condominiums that I just mentioned. There's competition, there's more inventory. The resale apartment style condos are becoming less desirable. We also had the problem after COVID, a lot of people moved out of the downtown area, and despite cranes in the air, lots of new condominiums being built. So we have all of that. It's still apartment style. It's in downtown Seattle, but it's kind of shadow inventory where they have these skyscrapers full of hundreds of empty units. And so existing inventory is having to compete with all of that new construction as well. So compare that in the Seattle market to Bellevue, our consistently across the state highest producing town that I'm aware of. Bellevue had a 29% increase in prices for their apartment style condos. Renton is at 5% increase, and Linwood lost 13%. That's a huge decrease. But again, this is pretty choppy data. We can also average out the data here. So we could look at a rolling 3-month chart to make the curves a little bit nicer. But Linwood still has a negative 16%. And I think that this is also due to a lot of new construction inventory in the Linwood area. If you've been to Linwood recently, they just completed their light rail opening in August of 2024. And there has been a ton of new construction in that area as well, near the train stop, near Alderwood Mall. Lots of housing coming into that area, apartments and condos competing with the existing inventory. So those are the trends with price changes. And I think it's also informative overall to look at what the average prices are. So for a condominium of any size, from studio up to 3-bedroom or more, we're looking at an average price point of around $400,000 to $500,000 in most of the greater Seattle area. And in Bellevue, it's almost at $700,000. So again, just a much more expensive market. Bellevue tends to cost about 30% more across the board for a similar style of house, and Bellevue is just going to be more expensive. So let's take a look at new listings. This is how many sellers are choosing to put their home on the market in any given month. And the Seattle curve is much higher here just because it's a larger population area, more condos in that area. But you can see overall that the trend is like a hump, right? It's a bump where we get the most new listings coming on toward late spring, and then they're declining with another bump in the fall. So if you want to be like everybody else, you would list your house or your condo in the spring. And if that doesn't work, you would list it in the fall. Summer tends to be a little bit of a slower time for us because a lot of people are on vacation. And of course, winter time has bad weather and the holidays, so it's not a great time for selling a home. Our next metric is homes for sale. This tells us how much inventory is on the market, how many homes buyers have to choose from. And similarly to when homes are listed, there are more homes to choose from in the warmer months of the year. But what I want to point out here is that this is a January data, January of 2025, compared to January of 2024, we have a lot more inventory on the market right now. And in fact, that was the case for almost the whole of 2024. A larger amount of inventory means that buyers have more homes to choose from. And so, with that balance of supply and demand, when there are more homes for buyers to choose from, we tend to see longer days on market, fewer multiple offer sales, and less upward price pressure. So while we are still seeing home prices appreciate in many of our markets, not all, we're also seeing it not appreciate as strongly as it did during the COVID years when unnaturally low interest rates brought a lot of buyers into the market that would not have otherwise been able to afford to buy a new home. So in general, this indicates a softening of the market with more inventory. We would expect to see, again, slower days on market and less upward price pressure. You'll see of all of these areas, Bellevue has the least increase in inventory, only 40%, which would correspond to its higher upward change in price. As far as number of transactions, we were pretty stable all of last year with a consistent number of transactions throughout the year for the most part. And we have had more transactions this year in January than we did last year in January. So that would mean more people are coming into the market, more buyers. If you want to sell your home, you can, and there are buyers out there to do it. All right, so here's the days on market. I always like to look at this one. I always think it's pretty fun. So it tends to be in Seattle in single family homes all throughout the spring and summer. We have a very fast moving market where homes are selling in like 5 days, and it's very challenging to be a buyer in a market like that. Condos tend to move a little bit slower. So we do have, at our lowest points, the days on market, it's staying under a week. But we also see that it rose pretty quickly. It wasn't as much of a U here. It was more like down during the spring, and then it just kept going up and up and up. And part of that, I think we had the election in November of last year, which made people feel uncertain about buying a home. I took over an expired listing that another agent had not sold, and I took that over in October, and we had to get it sold during this election season. And I think what data shows us is that during those election cycles, people kind of freeze up. They're uncertain. They don't know what to do. And then after the election happens, that anxiety kind of releases. Eventually, the people are like, oh, okay, here's the status quo. And then the market makes up for those transactions, those missed transactions in the following year. So we would expect here in 2025, following the presidential election cycle, to have an increase in the number of transactions we expect to see. But I think for at least some of this might have been accounted for a little bit wonky year with the election. But you can see right now in the winter months, we have 20 to 30 days on market as an average in most of our markets. And that's fairly slow. We hope to see it come back down. But again, if you're marketing a condo or a house, Seattle is a seller's market. If you have that thing on the market and it is not selling and it's looking like it's expiring and no one is coming to take a look at it, you have a marketing problem or a pricing problem, and you need to converse with your agent and fix one or both of those, because it should not be taking that long to sell your home. Okay, month supply. Oh, the month supply basically tells us if we stop selling homes now, or if we stop listing homes and we just sold the ones that are already on the market, how long would it take to sell out of the current inventory? And the lowest is actually in Linwood with 1.7 months. So within 2 months or less, we would have sold out of everything. Similar in Bellevue, the highest market is Seattle, which is also one of the softer markets where we just have more stuff that's sitting around. Okay, percent of original price. So this tells us If you listed it, did you sell it for full price? And the answer on average is no. Most people did not sell for their full asking price, and they either dropped their price and changed to a lower listing price, or they had the seller come in and say, hey, we're not going to pay full price. We need a little bit of a discount to make this work for us. And so it looks like people were taking between a 3 and 4% discount off their listing price in order to sell a home. Now, that does not mean that you should overprice your condo and try to price it 4% too high. It tends to mean that we're basing our sales based on comps and other data as far as what sold in the past, and that's giving us an overly rosy view of what's going on, at least at this time of year it was. Again, this was that fall with the election cycle. But, last spring, people were selling for closer to 100%. We hope to see that again in the future. Price per square foot is staying pretty flat, but again, it did come down a little bit in the fall, some softening in the fall. Hopefully we'll make that up again this year. And this is the last thing that I like to go over, which is just giving people a realistic sense of how many people are going to be looking at your unit. Especially if you're living in your condominium while it's for sale, it can be very stressful to feel like you have to clean everything and get your dog and take him for a walk, and then the people don't come on time, and so there's some stress associated with it, and you're going to have to do that 10 to 15 times. So just that's what you should be emotionally prepared for. And I like to do the math. I say, okay, you're going to have to do this 10 or 15 times over the course of your days on market, which is going to be about 30 days. So that gives you an idea of how many people should be coming through the property. 10 or 15 should be coming through, and how quickly they should be coming through. They should be there within 20 or 30 days. So again, if you're listing your house for sale and you have not had 10 to 15 people through in 20 or 30 days, you have a problem with your marketing or your pricing. If you have had 10 or 15 people, or maybe even 20 people through and no offers, that tells you they like the pricing, they like what they see online, but they're not liking what they see when they come to the home. They're not converting. Maybe the building is in a bad location. Maybe the exterior maintenance is poor. Your unit looks great, but the HOA is not taking care of business. Maybe they've examined the HOA financing and found that to be problematic. So you really have to know what your numbers are here. And if you're watching this video, hopefully you like the numbers as much as I do. But this is the type of data that informs your decision and your feedback. When I like to have a weekly meeting with my clients. This is how many people came. This is what they said. Are we seeing the numbers? Are we on track to meet our goal? Or are we on track to be a stale and eventually expired listing? And if so, it's better to know about that sooner rather than later. If you're expecting 5 people to come to your home the first week and you only get 1, that's not a good sign. The first week, especially, you should be having the most people come because it's an exciting, fresh new listing. And if you have a bad first week, that's really an indication that you're not matched up with the market and you need to fix things right away. So thanks so much for joining me on this condominium market report for what's going on in the greater Seattle area. Whether you're north, south, east, or west, I hope you found some good information here about your condo, and especially if you're planning to buy or sell. I'd love for you to reach out to me and be happy to answer any of your questions and talk to you about what the next steps are. So thanks so much, and I will see you in the next video.